well, if I can't play football, I'm going to coach football. And that's what I decided to do right there. I always loved real estate, did all that, and but at that time,
you couldn't give it up.
I couldn't give up.
I think that it's pretty common for most NFL players. The career-ending injury is what kind of steals the rest of the dream. Not many NFL players get to retire on their own. They don't happily retire. It was just difficult. It was a difficult transition trying to wrap our heads around, would football be over?
One of those moments. So it was, spectacular, experiencing that and almost giving us validation that this is what we're supposed to do. That's the first time that I've audibly heard God speaking to me.
Hey, we are Kristen and Kendall Reyes of the Reyes Home Team. We are realtors in southern New Hampshire and northern Massachusetts.
And we decided to make a podcast to share with you guys insight on us, our industry, keep it real with you guys all the way. We're going to share the good, the bad, the funny. Also, along our journey, we met a lot of really, really cool and interesting people. We're going to have them jump on here and share their stories and hope to inspire you guys.
So follow along.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just going to jump right into it.
Yeah, so most people know my husband as Kendall, the football player, but now he's Kendall, the realtor. So do you want to talk a little bit about that transition?
Yeah, the transition from football to real estate was an interesting journey, to say the least. The way that football ended for me, took some time. It wasn't just like I knew football was done, and then now I'm, jumping into my career. I had an injury when I was with the Kansas City Chiefs at the end of 2016, and that injury at the time we didn't think it was as serious as it was. So I'm like, okay, we'll get this taken care of in the off season. Then we'll re-sign. We were talking about re-signing to the Chiefs. Had a great season with them. Everything was looking good. Then when we came home, I was still having a lot of pain with my wrist. It was a wrist injury. Then we found out that it was a significant wrist injury that needed, surgery right away, and it was going to take multiple surgeries to get it back into a condition to where I could possibly play football again. So this was just dropped on us, and we're like, okay, that we were not expecting that at all. So we're like, all right, okay, I actually never even had surgery up until that point. So I'm like, guys who go through this all the time, you do some rehab. How hard could it be? Go through it. The first surgery, then the next surgery, follows up 2 months after that. Getting ready, just to get my body right to play football again. So that's all I'm thinking about. At the same time, during the off seasons, we usually take the time to work on, life after football. Even though at this time we're still thinking life after football is going to be another 5 or 6 years. We still do things, during the off season just because we know that, football isn't infinite and, it will come to an end at some point. So we actually went to a business academy in Michigan.
Sponsored by the NFL.
Sponsored by the NFL at that time, which was pretty cool. Kristen can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so right after his injury, he actually had a huge cast on when we went to the NFL Business Academy. But it was an awesome experience and just a really nice tool that the NFL provides to players, whether they're still playing. Who was the quarterback from the Jacksonville, right?
No, it was Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. So, he was there, and he was, 1 or 2 years in, and he was learning about what potential investments he could be making. And then there were guys that were 40 years old that were at the Business Academy still trying to figure out what investments they could make. But we learned about franchising and real estate, and that really ignited our desire to
hunger for real estate,
to get into real estate, and just made us see the potential in what we could be doing with real estate. But again, Kendall was still rehabbing from his injury, so we were kind of like, yeah, we'll see what happens with football, but real estate could be a cool career after.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, we had a couple, real estate investments, so it was like, okay, yeah, when football's done, we watch a lot of HGTV. We could flip houses like everybody else is doing. So that was really the plan. And we educated ourselves during the off season, like we did every off season. So during that time, it's going on, getting to the summer. I have teams calling. My wrist is still not in a spot to where I could even go to a tryout. So it's it's frustrating because you work your whole life to be in a position to be able to play. And, teams they want to come see you play, but I couldn't. I wasn't ready. Then during that summer, I'm just getting ready. Still not. The rehab is just taking longer and longer than I thought it would. Then towards the end of the summer, where teams are like, okay, like if you're going to come in and try for a team, it's going to have to happen now. During the rehab process, I actually had a setback, ruptured another tendon in my wrist, and that just wiped out playing football in 2017.
Yeah.
So that was, a pretty big blow. To me, I was home, not playing football. It was just like
mentally, it was a really hard time.
Yeah, it was tough. I didn't know who I was or what I was supposed to do because I'm Kendall, the football player, and right now I'm home in New Hampshire, not playing football, and no one knows why. Because to make it, I look normal. When you have a wrist injury, it's not like I have a huge cast and I'm obviously hurt. Everyone's just like,
oh, a wrist injury, that's easy enough. You'll be back by week 2.
Yeah, you'll be back in a week with a wrist injury, but that wasn't the case. So, talking about I'm able to play the dream, my dream job. I'm doing it. I'm in the middle of it, and I have an injury, which, okay, minor setback, but now the reality dawned upon me that I'm not playing this year at all. 2017 is out the window, and that was really, really tough mentally. Just felt out of place at all times. But that being said, the thing about Kristen and I, we always kind of been very realistic on, okay, even though it's not what I wanted to hear, hey, if football does end, it's, we still made the necessary plans in case it did end. So that's when, since we did have the interest in real estate already, we decided that together we're going to jump into real estate school. And, that's when we started that. Kristen can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so not to dwell on the injury, but it was shocking to us. And I think that it's pretty common for most NFL players. The career-ending injury is what kind of steals the rest of the dream, right? Not many NFL players get to retire on their own. They don't happily retire. You see guys that even retire and come back because they just can't give it up. It's addicting. And it was just difficult. It was a difficult transition trying to wrap our heads around, could football be over? But at the same time, I personally was so over it. We had moved from San Diego to Virginia to Kansas City all within 7-month period. I was watching my husband go in the mornings early to practice because he needed to have fluids from his knee drained. And then he was playing with a huge club on his right hand. And he's a defensive end. You can't grab people and tackle them with a club on your dominant hand. And so he was leaving this every morning for work, and I'm just is he going to be able to pick up our kids when he's 35? Is he going to be able to run around and play football with our kids? It was scary. So when we started planning for life after football, I was just kind of this is what needs to happen. Maybe he'll go back and play another season, but maybe not. We just have to, make a backup plan and make an exit strategy for transitioning into normal people in New Hampshire.
Yeah, for sure. So, we jumped right in. We're doing our classes, real estate, the whole nine. Now it's kind of the beginning of 2018. We take the test, crush it, obviously.
Pass on the first try.
First try. Then it was okay, let's, jump into it. We ended up signing with Keller Williams, Gateway Realty, and we just jumped straight into it. Because at this time in my rehab process, I had to start all over again. My right arm looks like it belonged to a 10-year-old child. So I'm still pretty far away from being football ready. So I'm all right, so boom, all in real estate. This is where we are. In the back of my head, I'm always all right, we'll get this ball going, rolling, build it up. I jump back, play football for 5 more years. Kristen has this real estate empire. It's perfect.
And he'll retire and just come home and inherit the empire.
Yeah. I'll inherit the empire in 5 years. But obviously we got to get it going. So in 2018, we jumped all in, decided on Reyes Home Team, and it was awesome. It was really cool. Learning everything about the industry. We've learned from a lot of other agents, in our office and other mentors that we had. Our first two transactions were our own home, which was really nice because there was so many things to learn.
If we screwed it up, at least it was ours.
Yeah, at least if we screwed that up, it was our own house. But no, that ended up going great. So now it's getting later into, almost the summer of 2018, starting to, fill my right arm out from like a 10-year-old to about maybe, 16-year-old. So I'm getting there. The hope is still to, play football, but same thing, very realistic. I do rehab in the morning. I work out for a couple hours. Then the rest of the day, it's, work and, being a dad. But we did have a pretty cool experience in the late spring of 2018. I think Kristen will be able to tell you about that.
Yeah, so we went down to Boston for a Hillsong United concert. They're a Christian worship group. And we were in like this big arena with thousands of people. And the woman singing started playing the piano, and she was singing the song New Wine. And she stopped partially way through the introduction, and she was like, I feel like I just need to get this out. God has come to me and, wants me to tell you guys that there's a professional athlete that's here in attendance in the stands that is going through a hard time. They were injured, and they're trying to rehab from this injury. And God wants me to tell them that this injury was for a reason. He's trying to strengthen this person in other ways to help them in their future. So just keep working at it and keep praying, and you're going to find what you're meant to be doing.
Then one thing she also said is, like, right now you and your wife are educating yourselves, and what that you guys are educating yourselves for something bigger. And this was when we were right in the middle of, just starting, real estate, and we're still taking all the classes and, really, really diving in and, taking in as much information as we can. And so I was like, whoa.
Yeah, and it's hard to explain over a podcast, I think. But, we were in this arena with thousands of people. And when she said there's a professional athlete, we're, like, looking around like, it's got to be you, right?
I was like, could be somebody else in here.
And he's got the club on his right hand. So, like, everybody's looking at him like it's clearly this enormous man with the injury on his arm.
Well, then you said the injury. I'm like, okay, that's common amongst athletes. There's probably somebody in here. Then they talked about everything else, and I was like, wow, wild experience. And I'm just sitting there crying. We're both crying. We're like, this is what we're meant to do.
Yeah.
One of those moments. So it was spectacular. Experiencing that and almost giving us validation that this is what we're supposed to do. Me being the hard-headed individual I am, I'm still all in on football. I'm still, of course, doing the real estate thing, but I'm working out every day like a madman. I'm rehabbing like a madman to get back out into that field because I'm like, I'm at least at this point, I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot. If that shot doesn't work out, cool.
Yeah,
but
you would have always regretted it if you didn't try with every fiber of your being to be back in the league. Exactly.
So I was like, you always regret the things that you don't do, and I was like, I'm going all in to make sure that, this doesn't work out. So then finally, like I said, we're selling real estate. We're actually having a pretty good year. Then all of a sudden I get a call from my agent. He's like, hey, the Jets wanted to take you in. I'm like, I was chasing this for so long. It's been a year and a half at this point that I'm like chasing this dream for so long. It almost is like I'm just stuck in the cycle of chasing the dream and didn't really seem like the dream was even going to happen. Then boom, it was like, hey, you got to fly out to New Jersey tomorrow. I'm like, whoa, okay, all right, let's go. Like, I'm back in football. Like, this is wild. And my experience with the Jets, like that last, I was there for the last month of training camp. It was awesome being back out on the field. But you forget the pain you're in every single day. When you do play football consistently through for, since you're a kid, you get used to the pain. You get used to all that other stuff. But when you take a year and a half off, then you get back into it, and especially in training camp, like your neck, your body, your back, everything just hurts. And I was like, I called Kristen one day. I was like, was I always in pain when I was playing before? And she's like, oh yeah, you're in pain every day. I'm like, okay, I feel like it hurts a lot more now. But I had a great experience, going back out there. But really, at the end of the day, the wrist wasn't in a spot where it needed to be able to play at a professional level, at a high level. Talking to the GM and the staff over there, there's like, hey, you're talented. Obviously, we can still see that you're holding back a little bit, with your injury. Then I got released at the end of training camp. All right, stinks, but okay, I've kept rehabbing during that process, and guys get signed during the season all the time. So I had a couple tryouts lined up. Had a few tryouts, came really close. Every team was concerned about the wrist. So now it's like the end of 2018. I haven't played, besides a training camp, played football in almost 2 years at this point. And then that's when I'm like, okay, this is football. Football's done. So the smart thing would have been to do, okay, let's continue into this business that we have grown and is actually doing, pretty well for it being in his first year. I panicked. I was like, I'm not done football. And I was like, well, if I can't play football, I'm going to coach football. And that's what I decided to do right there. I always loved real estate, did all that, and but at that time,
you couldn't give it up.
I couldn't give up, my baby. So I decided to coach at UNH, but I'm still working out, still staying in shape because you never know, you could get a call. But right before I, went to start my first day at UNH, Kristen threw a little surprise for me.
Yeah, I threw a surprise retirement party to give him some closure on the NFL because I was like, we're giving it up. We're done. It's been 2 years since you played. No one ever, I feel like, has come back after 2 seasons of not playing, especially with all the injuries. And I'm like, we just got to give you some closure and move on. So I invited all of Kendall's friends from various points in our lives, and we all went out in Boston and all wore Kendall's jerseys from the different teams that he was playing on. And we were like, happy retirement, Kendall.
So granted, this was a surprise, so I didn't know it was happening until right before, and I emotionally wasn't ready to retire yet. So I'm literally in tears, calling my agent. I'm like, do you think I got a shot at the CFL? And he's like, well, is that what you want to do? I'm like, I don't know, but I think I'm just having a hard time right now. But it was great. Thank you for throwing me the retirement party. But that being said, it was time to stop that. But like I said, I didn't want to give up football. Kristen was now pretty much the business was just all her.
I was just a normal person. It was the most bizarre time in my life, especially when Kendall was on the Jets, because I was living in Hudson, New Hampshire, in this normal colonial, like every other house in the 100-house development. And my husband was on the Jets. Like, what? I would be out mowing the lawn with 2 little kids. And my husband was in New York playing on the Jets. It was so bizarre. We would travel out there for his games. And I would look at the other wives and girlfriends, and I was like, oh, my God, I'm so old for this. I can't do this anymore. But, I mean, it was amazing. I'm glad that Kendall got to go back and play on the Jets, even if it was just for a small amount of time. It was fun. We had a blast, going city to city with the NFL and going to all the games and meeting all the amazing people. But at some point, you just got to, move on, and now we're normal people.
Yeah,
in New Hampshire.
100% normal. So yeah, I did the coaching gig for a year. It was
at
awesome.
University of New Hampshire. At
UNH, University of New Hampshire. Go Wildcats. Loved it. Loved everything about it, besides me not seeing my family.
Yeah, the time commitment was outrageous for college coaching, especially for you're not at a huge college where you're making this enormous amount of money.
Yeah.
I still had to work.
Yeah, no, took a pretty significant pay cut to coach there, but I'm like, it's all about the experience. I wasn't giving up all the way on my football dream. Like I said, Coach Mack, Rick, Coach Santos, all those guys, Coach Miller, everybody over there. They had such a good crew, such a good team. I connected, with a lot of the players. But ultimately, going through that experience, I really had to sit down and look at myself and like, all right, is this, something that, what I want to do for, the rest of my life or do for the, next significant amount of time? And, is it worth, the strain it will put on my family and all of that? There's many things I loved about it, but at the end of the day, my family comes first. And, so I decided to leave after a year. Great experience, but, I feel like sometimes, you got to go through some things to also understand what you don't want. Like, I knew going into it, I'm like, hey, I'm going to try this now.
I told you that too.
Yeah,
I was
and Kristen
if you're going to get paid this small amount of money to go chase this coaching dream, let's do it now, because when we're 35 and we have to cover our own insurance and we have 3 kids and we're paying for daycare and stuff, I'm going to be pissed if you're making, this small amount of money every year. Like, if you're going to go follow this dream, let's do it now while we can financially do it.
Yeah. So, it was fresh. I was like, let's do this now. If it doesn't work out, then we'll just move on. And I'm glad I did that way, because sometimes you do see it. Someone's 5-10 years into their career and they're like, I still want to do football. More power to you, but I just knew for us in our situation, I was like, let me do this first. If it doesn't work, we'll move on, and which we did. Then after that, really brought it back full circle into us being together in this industry. And, that really, elevated, where we are. And, it started with my wife. Like, my wife, she had the business, by herself. And I saw the way that, she was able to step up with me gone. And, she did an incredible job. I always, still wanted to do it, but like with her, but I had to officially get a divorce from football first. Me and football was still going through some things, so we had to work that out. But what Kristen did, during that time where I stepped away for a bit, and what she was able to do, with her business, which I'm glad she let me back into, was beautiful. It was a work of art, and she was able to.
I wanted to grow it into something that when you did join, we could confidently work in it together and not have to have another income to supplement it, basically. Because, real estate's a little bit scary if you're not hugely financially stable. Like, you only get paid, obviously, when you close on a property, and there's no steady income at all. And now, we're responsible for our own health insurance, our own, all the insurances. You do the bills. I don't know what they are, but all of the
all
things.
That stuff.
All the
other things that come with being an adult.
Yeah.
All the adult things.
None of it's covered by our work. We have to pay it all out of pocket. So, it was scary to just be like, hey, let's go in on this full time and just hope that we make enough money to cover everything.
Yeah, for sure. But, sometimes kind of, when you're all in on something, it kind of forces you to work a little bit harder, because it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. We got to make it work. Obviously, Kristen having that success, in the time I was away, made that decision a little bit easier. And, that was all part of the plan too at that time in our life. I was like, hey, if you, Kristen, if you could hit this, a certain number, then I think we confidently could both do this together. And that was the number that we had set out for the whole year. And she essentially did it in like 7 months. So I was like,
I'm in.
I was like, all right, Big Daddy's coming back. we back in this thing, full time. So,
so now Kendall and I have been full time together for a little over a year. And it's been just really fun. I feel like we learn a lot. We have a blast doing it. In some other episodes, I think we'll talk about more of our dynamic and how we actually logistically work together, because it's obviously not easy to work with your spouse all day, every day. But
What do you mean? I'm so easy to work with.
yeah, but we love it, and we hope that other people, love this career and follow along to see everything that we get to do.
Yeah, for sure. So really, I mean, that transition, it was a tough road from football into, now real estate full time. But for me, I felt like I look back on, the, football coaching and all that. Like, I felt like I needed to do that to be able to make the realization of, like, this is where I want to be. Because sometimes until you actually try something and do something, you don't know if it's for you or not for you. And I was able to make that decision confidently and be like, okay, I'm going to move on from this and, now join back in full time. But, I feel like going through that over those couple of years made coming back into real estate full time for me, like, okay, this is 100% what we should be doing. It made all sense. You almost it was character shaping years. Mm-hmm. That is what, really got us to this point. So
yeah, but we have, like we said before, we have a lot of awesome people that we've met along the way from the NFL,
Sure.
from coaching, from different places that we've been and experiences we've had. So we're really excited to have them as guests on the podcast, and we hope that you follow along.
all right, see you guys soon.